Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Kill Team 40k podcast and YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to siege initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan and I'm here to help give you tips and tricks to elevate every part of your Kill Team experience. So no matter if you're a casual or competitive player, there should be something here for you. Ultimately, the goal for all of us is to become better opponents and have more fun in the game, and Turning Point Tactics is here to help you do exactly that. Before we begin, I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons. You guys are incredible and I hugely appreciate the support you give me. If not for the support of the patrons, the channel simply wouldn't be what it is. If you too are interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. Firstly, you too can join the Patreon, where you'll get exclusive access to the Discord, Patreon priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content and tournament rewards. Secondly, if you find yourself buying Kill Team goodies or hobby supplies, you can use our affiliate links. This means with every purchase you make, a little bit comes to the channel. It'll cost you nothing, but help keep us and the show going. Finally, you can always support for free without spending a penny. It's as simple as hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, and sharing amongst your local community. Telling your friends about us is a great way to connect the communities together, share lessons, and help elevate everyone's game. As always, we're keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty. Let us know what you think, maybe we've missed something, or maybe you have a better strategy. Drop a comment and let us know. Once again, thank you for your support. With all that said, let's get into it.
Tier list, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. All right, what's the next team that you want to cover off?
Yeah, so I'd like to cover off one of the teams that for a very long time was considered as one of the better or one of the best teams, maybe not recently, but last year. And I personally never had too much of a respect towards that team. I never liked them. I never thought that they were like super broken or extremely powerful. So yeah, I just want to keep those hate comments coming into the comments section on YouTube, and that's Breaches. I think they're extremely slow, extremely predictable. They have like one comms, and yes, they do have the fancy GA2 shenanigans with the double activate and +1 APL and so many auto retains that you will kill like almost every operative in the game with that. But once they do that, they're done. They're like, this is okay. After that, they just, okay, I'm just gonna move 6 and shoot you with my shotgun with some rerolls, and that's it. I don't regard them as a great team. Quite the opposite. I think they're quite a bad team. But they do still have quite a few activations. They're quite durable, and for that reason, I would probably put them either at the very bottom of B plus or in B.
Ooh, okay, that is a hot take. Because I have a lot of experience with Breaches. I still think that they have a lot of play. It's interesting. We were having a chat the other day in some of the WhatsApp groups about how Vox Scream interacts with GA2. And I don't think it cancels it raw. So you can activate a dude, they Vox Scream you then use Breach and Clear on the guy next to him and activate him anyway, and it gets around it. But anyway, there's like a little niche thing that's just popped up.
Oh yeah, they will probably still kill the elite players in a way, but I just think like if you put them against other teams within that mid-range-ish area, yeah. I think they won't do as well as many people think they will. Like, I played many times against Dan running Breaches.
Yeah.
And Dan is definitely a good player, and he won many events with them. But I think it's thanks to his wonderful abilities and not the team specifically.
Yeah. So I think the issues that they do have, and this is something that I will admit, is I actually think elites are a bad matchup for this team. Like, you have a melter gun and you have a plasma gun, and if those two things don't kill, you probably bounce. And I know that people will tell me you have the axe jack and the hatch cutter, and I get that. However, like, statistically, those models don't kill most good elites in melee. Like, if you're fighting elite gunners, sure, but like, you try and fight the like -1 attack dice, or like -1 weapon skill guy that's going to be coming out from the the new team, and I think you're absolutely screwed. I agree with you on their speed, but I do like their GA2 abilities. I do like their ability to play the objective with like lock it down, and I do like their durability from when it comes to -1 damage. So I personally think with the changes to Vet Guard, I think they're better than Vet Guard. I think the cat is massively underutilized when it comes to an ability to score an early kill on Turning Point 1. I don't really know why people don't like it that much, but I think it plays massive mind games with people, and it's very good for area denial. So if you're playing against a 10 activation team, it's, for me, I think fantastic. And it gives you much more range with their comms, because you identified a point there, which I think is a massive weakness of this team, is the comms is short ranged, but that lets you have effectively 2 bubbles of it, which is far more useful. So you're quite high on the rating of Hunterclade. So I'll say that they'll probably sit just below Hunterclade and just above Vet Guard.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they might be. I personally think I would rate them more than Hunterclade, but you probably would rate Hunterclade more than them. So I think they sit somewhere in amongst that. But
yeah. Let's keep it at that. Like I'm sure that I will. I just triggered a crusade of Navy Breaches players against any of my teams specifically, and there will be a crusade of players proving to me that I'm wrong and that they will keep losing it against Breaches. But yeah, yes, they are durable. Yes, they do have the GA tricks, and what's very good about those GA tricks is that you have that certainty, or you get as close to certainty as you can playing this game, which is great. But what I don't like about them is their mobility or lack thereof, and therefore on many maps, a lack of a potential to threaten the mid-board objectives, Turning Point 1. And sometimes it's all about that. You need to establish board control early and just stick to it. And
yeah, for sure. And like, for instance, on Beta Decima, I think they're going to suck. Like,
on the
current Beta Decima, I don't really see what they can do. They don't have the movement potential to reach the objective. So you're probably scoring like 1 point on turn 1, which is almost a completely irrecoverable position.
All they need is a guy with a jump pack. A guy that prevents the opponents from moving before Turning Point 1 firefight phase, and a few other things.
Turn them into dwarves, and then they're fine.
Yeah, they are dwarves, but ugly.
Should we talk about a team that I think is actually pretty good on Beta Decima? And I think they're one of the strongest teams in the game. You probably already know who I'm talking about, but I have been playing them recently. So let's talk about Pathfinders, because I think they are top of the meta right now. Not better than Felgor, but I do think they're better than Commandos. I think 12 activations is, with the recon drone, as the recon drone is probably too strong.
I can see that, and it's interesting that the forward deploy rules as written, I think it doesn't work on doesn't affect the drone forward deploy.
Yeah, for ITD, because it's not a and for Beta Decima, because it's
exactly.
It's not a CP, it's not a attack ploy, it's an ability on a data card. So you're unaffected by the ITD nerfs, you're unaffected by the Beta Decima nerfs,
and that's quite huge considering that forward deploys in both those killer zones are like massively important and can benefit you to gain that early game advantage and turn that into maybe not easy victory, but at least put you in a position to get that victory quite easier. So there's that, and I think that with number of activations they've got, I don't think that the fat drone is a fair solution, that it comes in as one operative or one choice on the roster. I think that if you compare that fat drone against any other Pathfinder operative, it doesn't seem too fair considering what each of them does. So yeah.
I think if you asked anyone in the game, like any team, would you take the recon drone and switch it out for one of your models? They probably would. Like, it's GA2, like it has the access to giving you Relentless where you need it. It has Fly. It has 12 wounds and a 4-up save. It is like one of the best models in the game. As it stays at the moment, I think either they need to tweak the rules on it, and either sacrifice the GA2 but keep Relentless, or keep GA2 but make it like ceaseless or something like that. Because at the moment, or make it so it costs two options again. But like at the moment, I agree with you. The efficiency and the economy, like the money worth of that drone right now is insane. It does so much for the team.
Yeah, and have you seen the model? That gun surely should have been unwieldy on top of heavy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but if you try to work out the balance, like how much effort does the drone controller have to put into controlling that drone to balance it out while it flies or shoots? Like, this is way too much. It should be unwieldy.
And it's got a Monka dash, so he's doing like a dash. He's firing his burst cannon, and then he's GA2ing a iron rifle into someone else or whatever. And it's just it's a lot. And I think I'd be okay with it if it gave less of a GA2 buff, or if it keeps Relentless, then it can't be the next activation. Remove the GA2 from it, because it lets you do some wacky things on ITD, where you can burst into rooms and get quite a lot of like early damage, and that's probably not where they want to be. And by the way, I don't think Pathfinders are bad in ITD anymore. I think that's
neither do I.
Yeah, like I think so. For people who haven't experienced what I think Pathfinders can do on ITD now, you can effectively marker-light someone. You then go on get on guard, and you marker-light them again. And that means that effectively for you, a single activation, because the second part of it is during your opponent's activation, you can apply 4 marker light tokens.
With the high intensity marker light with one model. That's absolutely huge, because if you're not a dwarf and you cannot make your barricade heavy, that means that your barricades don't do much into Pathfinders on ITD.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah, this is useless. Yeah. And all of the objectives are basically protected only by light terrain, and therefore they can just either have high intensity marker lights everywhere, marker light you up, and then just shoot you out. And one of the things that people will see that I played a lot of is I was routinely dropping the gunners, because the standard Shazla with his marker light and pulse carbine is so efficient that like actually the rail rifle is often overkill, which is nuts to me. Like, it's nuts that you don't need to take the special weapons, because the normal guns will kill stuff.
Imagine a situation like let's go back 2 years back in time, and you see a mysterious guy come into the nerd game shop where you play your game with Pathfinders, and he tells you, mark my words, open will be the worst kill zone for Pathfinders.
It's bizarre.
And you'll be like,
bizarre.
Who is this nutter? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like jokes aside, I think they should sit in S tier. I think they're a very powerful shooty horde. The fat drone should be reworked, because as of now it's not fair. And yeah, they should do quite well into many other teams, especially on ITD and BD. Open might be a different story, because that will very much depend on the terrain layout, and if you can hide behind heavy, if they can alpha strike you, because that may change a lot. Like if you have bad terrain layout and they can take out or threaten to take out a few of your operatives in the first activation, that in itself can turn the matchup upside down. So it's much harder to evaluate them on open, but I think they're quite safe on BD, they're quite safe on ITD, and overall they're quite good, and they should do fairly well into most teams. So yeah, I agree, S tier is their place. but they have ugly models. Oh my god.
That is going to get you a lot of hate. That is you're looking for trouble right now.
Well, I'm here to increase the. To all the listeners, my sole purpose of joining Ryan today is to at least double the amount of comments. At least double the amount of comments. So yeah,
please make it positive, guys. Please make it positive. I'm sure your Pathfinders look great. It's other Pathfinders that Bart doesn't like. All right, so what should we talk about next? We've got quite a few teams still to go through. Wow, there's a lot of teams.
Yeah, maybe you'd like to diss my pet team and yeah, talk about nuns with guns.
Nuns with guns, yeah. You know what? I don't think they're bad, right? I think they're better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. I think they've done well in the sort of the meta of what's come out top recently, but they have such a weird skew matchup between like ITD and Open that they play as completely different teams, which I think for a lot of players is very difficult, because you do have to completely change your mindset going into them. I think they are. I'd probably sit them in like B+ somewhere. I'm trying to think where they would sit, because what I love about the nuns is their reliability, and that like as a good player you can broadly just go, I'm going to make this thing happen, and it does. Which there is a certain quality to be assigned to that when it comes to competitive play, of just being able to, just make stuff happen when you need it. And particularly for me, it's, I don't know why this is, but it's the charging into melee and just needing a single hit to kill something. I don't know why that for me always means I fail, but like that's where they just go, no, don't worry about it. Faith points, done. So I think probably for me, they're going to sit in B+, and I want to put them above Hunterclade, but below Blooded. But where do you think they sit?
Oh, okay, so first things first, you just got a grudge token, and I'm on Frenzy, and
I didn't say
and I am writing at least half of those negative comments coming up. No, but jokes aside, I seriously think that they are a bit stronger than most people give them credit for, and it may be because I'm biased, because I obviously play an absolute ton of games with them, and I have a very decent win rate with the team. And I would agree that Novitiates are a very different team depending on whether you look at ITD plus Open, or fully mixed. They do play in a very specific way on Beta Decima as well. I haven't had a chance to play with them on Beta Decima since the balanced slate, because I picked up dwarfs, and this is my new toy right now. But all things considered, they will, or their power level will differ depending on the format of the tournament. If someone tells me that, we're playing ITD only, like last year at LGT, they're a very strong team.
For sure. I agree with that.
Like ridiculously strong. This is like, if you're talking ITD only and not put them in S tier, I will doubt your perception of that team massively. But when it comes to overall grade, I would say they lose quite a bit on Open. They lose some of their capabilities on Bet Decima, although we need to remember that the Penitent with +1 APO and +2 inch movement and auto passing jump tests can actually get quite far into the board.
Yeah, very true.
I know many people give it a crack grenade. I personally, and this is my hot take, I often don't do that. I often prefer to put the crack grenade on my medic to add another threat on the board. And this is how I like to play with nuns. But yeah, like just to go away from my digression, I I think they do fairly well into elites. I think they've always struggled into certain hordes just because of the attrition game and the fact that sometimes hordes can just kill them too quickly and end up with more models. I would probably put them, let's put them in B plus somewhere. I would probably put them above blooded, maybe just below blooded. And this is because I know I'm biased, because if it was just my tier list, they would definitely be an A. But at the same time, I need to account for the fact that I'm a freak. I play too many games with them, and I may see power that is not there in that team. So for that reason, I'm happy to put them in B plus.
I'm gonna have to put blooded above them. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Feel free to do that.
And so the difference between Novitiates and Hunterclade is they definitely have the oomph, right? Like, they have so many ways to like, if you don't see it coming with like the leader GA2 or the burning advanced torrent, like or the 3 APL potential charge crack grenade, whatever it is, right? That they have so many ways to pop off a double kill. I can make a really decisive move. We could spend hours talking about the cool tricks they can do. An ITD, you can dash them in scouting, dash the flamer in scouting, give them +1 APL, and then open the door and burning advanced dash and get onto the point and either kill someone who's already there or just go on guard. On an objective, let them come to you.
On an objective that your opponent thinks is their objective. You can do like the GA2 activations with the leader, and we need to remember that somehow, some way, Novitiates are, I think, the exact team that got most of the buffs, not through the balanced data state, because this is where they got nerfed a bit, but through the FAQs.
Yes.
In the FAQs, they got the blinding aura got super conceal. In the FAQs, they got guard from Defenders of the Faith, and in the FAQs they clarify that if you use the lead by example ability of the leader, you can meet the threshold point of that ability that has to be met for it to trigger anytime during the activation. So in a way, most of the good stuff that came towards them came through the FAQ. So it's crazy. But yeah, let's not turn this into a chat about Novitiates.
Novitiate deep dive next hour. Let's go.
Yeah. Because I could easily continue talking about Novitiates. Let's talk about something else, and maybe after like having spoken now for quite some time, would you say it's good time to do some preliminary placing of one of the new teams? Maybe
sure.
Mandrakes? What do you think about Mandrakes?
Oh, okay. I have lots of thoughts on Mandrakes. This is a team that they just seem to give everything to. Like they thank God that they're kind of fragile, but I mean they're always gonna have a 4 vulnerable save. So that's fine. But I guess my problem with Mandrakes is, and this is why it's going to be really hard to place them, is because their ability as a kill team is entirely dependent upon the board, right? Like, if you have lots of heavy terrain, like, so on TPT maps currently, I think Mandrakes are going to be fantastic. Like, they're going to be so good. And like, people are going to be there screaming at me that my maps are not competitive because Mandrakes are running wild, and there's nothing I can do about it. But like, because all their abilities procs off heavy terrain. That being said, I think that if there's not heavy terrain where they need to be, they're probably going to suck. Like, so it's like this weird combination of they're completely terrain dependent, and then are they broken? I think they might be broken on certain maps and layouts.
So before we get to the discussion about whether they're broken or not, like, I wanted to make a comment about what you just said, like, which is, I think it's quite interesting, because when we look at Novitiates, we said that the power level of that team depends on the kill zone, and and in the case of Mandrakes, it may be quite similar in a way that you want if you're on ITD, you can look at the maps and the shadow will be like within 1 inch of the pillars. So you have quite a lot of shadow on ITD. If you look at Beta Decima, most of the terrain pieces there are heavy, and in some of the ledges of the vantage points, they just overhang, so you can hide beneath them and be in shadow. And then you may play one of the open maps. And when I look at some maps from the Adepticon in the US, there was a map that they referred to as the dreaded X, which was basically a shooting range, a frying pan with almost no terrain. If you happen to play your Mandrakes on that map, it's going to be, where's my ability?
Where's my entire team faction's abilities? They don't exist all of a sudden.
Why did you nerf my team with a map?
So there's a few abilities that I just want to touch on, because I think I love the idea of the ability, right? But this is why I think it's probably too much. So,
and we thought that the fly was broken.
Yeah. Well, because and genuinely, the way I look at this, like this to me was like reading Pathfinders when they first came out. So I was like, holy, like this is some insane sets of abilities that probably shouldn't all be in the same kill team or as accessible as they all are. But the first one I want to talk about is their creeping horror ability. So for those of you who don't know, it's a strategic ploy. Strategic ploy costs 1 CP, and after each enemy operative's activation, so each time your enemy operative activates, but before the next one is activated, you can perform a free dash action, and each friend can only do this once. But you have to, and again, this is your point, you have to be on conceal and start in shadow and end in shadow. So that's like the saving grace to this ploy, right? Is it's terrain dependent, and I think now I can see why the playtesters were telling me that you need more light terrain or objectives, probably because they knew this was coming down the road. But I was like, no, that seems fine, not an issue. And then this team released, and I was like, oh my god. So, and the reason why I don't like this is because how it can stack with some crazy abilities they can do. They have ability to make their dashes longer, so they can recon dash to sit under a vantage point in, say, Octarius. They can then wait for you to do your Hierotek laughs and Hearthkin laughs and Dwarven, whatever. But for most teams, right? So they can do that straight at the start of the game. Then they just wait to see what you do, right? Like they wait to see where you move, and at some point they go, I'm now going to move my guy 4 inches forwards, and that can be, by the way, like after you've finished doing all your stuff. So you've shot someone. Then they move them 4 inches further forwards. They're now 8 inches up the board. Before the operatives activates, they can charge or conceal and fight you. Like, that is wild, right? Like, absolutely insane that they have a effectively 16-inch charge range from their deployment. Like, if it's in shadow. And that's the point, right? Is like, I know that there's potentially gaps and you might be able to find a way around it, whatever. But that is insane threat ranging. So just
and can you remind me, because I don't know the rules by heart yet. This ability, do they trigger that ability after the activation or after each of the actions?
After the whole activation.
The whole activation. Okay,
so your enemy does their
what
thing.
They cannot do is the enemy activates. They make I'm going to move. Okay, I'm going to dash away from you.
That'd be even worse. Like, could you imagine that? Like, I'm going to move here and shoot you. No, you're not. I'm going to go to the door.
Exactly.
So that's like one thing, and you go, all right, fine, that's a really strong ability. And we haven't seen that much reactive play in a team before, I don't think. But then, like, the fact that they can charge and conceal is a durability buff, and a lot of people won't necessarily see that as one. But like, if you're a shooting team and you can't get shots off easily, then that is a straight durability buff. Then they have the ability to auto retain a second dice if they're in shadow with a strategic ploy. So like these things, like when you stack them one after the other, they're all amazing. Like they are all so good. Yeah. They can fight first, and this is why I think they're such a skew team, because like I don't know what like Corsairs or Harlequins do against a team like this. Like
so I would say they're definitely the new best elves.
Yeah.
And like what I said beforehand in form of a joke, like, oh, and you thought that fly was broken. I actually meant it, because like people, oh no, Harlequin's fly. Imagine a team that can teleport around the board,
Yeah.
and then they charge from conceal. Then they have 4-up invuln, they have auto retains, and then you think, oh yeah, so at least I can charge them and kill them in melee. Oh no, they fight first. So your guy who wants to charge them and kill them in melee actually needs to be a powerhouse on his own to be able to withstand them fighting first. So you have to have a lot of wounds, or you need to have a similar ability to fight first, or whatnot. They are very skewed, and you said, and on top of that, um, they can impact the order of activations, which I think is huge, and people underestimate how big that
Massive.
is, and how big of an impact that will have during the game. The ability of the leader, and the focus ability of the other guy, that will prevent you from activating the model that you might want to activate. All those things combined, I think this will make for a very strong team. However, I think that this team will prove to be difficult for new players,
Oh, for
because
sure.
if you don't know how to use those operatives that you have, you will end up dismantled by more experienced players very quickly. Because after all, if you don't know how to benefit or make all of those abilities work together, you have 8 wound operatives, and that's it. And that's not really great when it comes to the base stat line. The other thing that I have to say about them, they will be CP hungry.
Oh, for sure.
They
Yeah,
will
they
be
definitely will
CP
be. Yeah.
hungry, because you read strategic ploys and tactical ploys. You read the first one, oh yeah, I will play that every turn. You read the second one, oh yeah, I will play that every turn. The third one, I will play that every turn. You get to the tac ploys, and your command points are long gone, and you just started reading your tac ploys, because and then you realize, oh yeah, I want to play these as well. So yeah, ultimately I think they will be a difficult team to play for new players, especially. However, at the same time, they will be a team that will punish new players especially hard, because all of the threat ranges that they will have, like the 16 inches for the charge, or stuff that they could set up for turning point 2. Because I know that if you do the shadow passage, you cannot shoot that turn, right? But
Yeah.
you can still set up multiple threats and saturate the board with threats for turning point 2. And normally you would say, oh yeah, but if you do that, you might accidentally overextend, because your opponent will be able to reach you as well if you do that. But then you can say, well, you have focus, and you have your leader who is somehow likely to prevent your opponent to activate in the order they would like to activate, which might have a huge impact. So plays that would typically be considered as potential overextensions in other teams may not really be overextensions, but a slightly safer threat saturations for this team. So for that reason, I think they will be very powerful. Where do we put them then?
I knowing my maps, and this is like I'm ready for the hate if people hate my maps now. Knowing my maps, and the fact that all of their ploys are good, all of their equipment's good, and they have some amazing operative abilities.
Yeah. Remember, guys, if you lose against Mandrakes, you can say it's all because of Ryan, and even if you play on ITD, just blame Ryan's maps.
I think that they're going to be either very, very top of A or bottom of S, and I'm more.
Yeah, I think top of A, maybe bottom of S. On one hand, I'm like reluctant to put too many teams in S tier. On the other hand, we have like 30-ish teams in the game.
There's going to be a few. There's going to be a few. I think putting them bottom of S is probably the safe place to be, because I think, for instance, if you look at the teams that are in S tier, Commandos, I think they are going to struggle to kill Commandos because they lack the melee damage, right? So like they'll bounce quite a lot, and that's fine for Commandos.
Yeah, so that might be the reason why I actually would prefer to keep them on top of A, because as you said, commandos, they will just they will be very excited to see that elf charging them, and they will be like, "Whoa, just a scratch, and I'm gonna bash you into the ground."
Yeah.
And then if you look at goats, I think ultimately goats will just win by way of attrition, and like, oh yeah, I still have 10 wounds, and I live twice. And then you look at Pathfinders, and Pathfinders, even considering the double retain and shadow and 4-up invuln, Pathfinders with so many models, good rerolls, and 4 base damage on their weapons can prove to have enough in the arsenal to just shoot them off the board.
Yeah. But these are all teams that we think are above them. So
yeah, okay, yeah, fine. So, let's keep them in bottom S and see what happens.
There's 2 teams that I think will come up, which I don't think they'll like playing against, but I think they could just outscore them. And that's like the bit that I think that this team can do is everyone knows how powerful the Grot was, right? Of just being able to contest an objective or steal an objective early on Turning Point 1. And this team can do that twice. And it requires nil investment from them. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe they drop down based on where some other teams come up in a second. But we'll leave it there. But definitely somewhere between S and A. All right, so
yeah.
Let's press on to a elite team close to my heart. Let's talk about the Intercession squad, because I think this is a team that has, again, just... I don't really know why that they had the nerfs that they had. I guess I do, but they were doing well in casual scenes, but I haven't seen them do too well outside of that, right? Like the best I've seen them do is like 3-1 recently. No one's winning tournaments, and that's because at some point they meet Hearthkin, they meet Kasrkin, they meet like Legionary, the new elite team, whatever it is, and I just think that they lack the durability that they once had. And so I wonder if they have what it needs to hold in right now. But they do score well. So it's kind of a weird one for me. I think they sit in B-. I think they're above Exaction Squad and Void Dancers. But
I was worried that you would put them way higher, and as I was about to say to look at B+ tier and tell me which team out of those loses to Intercession.
Absolutely none of them. Yeah, that's the problem, right? It's like all the teams that are above them now, like even Warp Coven, they just beat them in melee, and they can now they can guarantee that they out-activate. The Soul Reaper Cannon can pick up a kill if you want to go that way, if you want to be shooty. If you don't want to be shooty, you can just run loads of goats and probably not die because your sorcerers are more of a problem for this team to deal with. And so, yeah, I think they've had a fall from grace, and they might be worse than where they are right now, but I think B- is fair. They have some. I think
B- is fair, and all things considered, and I'm going to again work for those comments, and I'm going to say it's for the better of the whole game, and the reason for that is that at some point I literally got bored seeing like half of the field being Intercession, and like you go to the tournament and it's like, oh, another game against Intercession. Like I think that I recall last year's Warhammer Fest when Kasrkin went there with Harlequins, and at the time he wasn't really fond of that matchup, and he ended up playing them 3 times. And I think you were one of them.
One of them was me. Yeah, sorry, Kasrkin. I think I was the only one he lost as well. But yeah, I mean that was quite a good matchup. Well, I think it's a weird one because a lot of Harlequin players do quite well into that matchup because you just take the upgraded damage kisses and away you go. But I do think that if you lean into shooting with Intercession, you can solve that problem. So, yeah, I think we're happy with where they sit. Should we talk about an elite team that we think is going to absolutely crush the meta, or is that much just my opinion? Do you have any thoughts on Nemesis Claw?
You mean Strike Force Justian?
Yeah. we'll come on to them. I actually don't think they're quite as bad as everyone thinks. But let's talk about Nemesis Claw, because they are exciting and people want to know about them.
I thought you would leave them for a
Right till
very
the end?
end, you know.
Okay.
But
You know what? Let's do that. Let's leave them to the end, and we'll do Strike Force Justian in the meantime, because I have a interesting take on this, which is probably different to what other people will think. I actually think Strike Force Justian is better than Intercession, which for a lot of people are like, wait, what? I think they're harder to play than Intercession. Like, I completely think that they're much more difficult to play. But actually, when you look at them into the meta of what you need to fight against, I think they have far better tools to deal with it. The captain, with his invulnerable save and like insane CP generation, is really good. His AP weapon is really good because it hits on 2s. And he's just an absolute beef stick. And with a 40mm base, a double fight is so much easier to pull off. So I think he's fantastic. I think the fact that your other leader hits on 2s with a bolt rifle is just really good. It's nice and reliable. And you have CP rerolls for days and doctrine rerolls for days. The marksman gives you access to a quite potent ignore obscurity threat, and it's not against a single target. It's just against anyone he wants to shoot, which can lead to some quite interesting stuff if you want to have Overwatch potential towards the end of a turning point. And the heavy intercessor is fantastic for being able to hold objectives and just like eat a melter gun, because everyone thinks he's going to die, right? Like, you go, I'm going to hit this guy with a plasma gun or whatever, and statistically he doesn't. So
yeah, I can see that. I'll be honest with you. Even though I play way too much of Kill Team, I haven't had a chance to play against this wonderful creation from GW. So I should have no say in where they sit. Apart from the fact that I still see them as an elite team, and that means that if I look at our B+ team, a B+ tier, this is the glass ceiling for them.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. So I think they sit just below Warp Coven, because they don't have the activations, as he said, to be able to better play with people. But I think they're in B because they are a more durable, more CP efficient version of Intercession. So you're always Wrath of Vengeancing, you're always got a Doctrine up, and you're always ignoring APL and injury. So because you just have so much CP, this team is like, it's absolutely insane how much CP this team gets. So you're just there laughing with how much CP you have. So I think they sit in B tier, not B-, which is my hot take on them.
Okay, yeah, let's keep them there. As I said, like, I should have no say in where they sit because I haven't played with them or against them. And yeah, they're blue, they're Marines. Yeah, let's just move on.
Big blue Smurfs. All right, what team do you want to cover next?
Maybe let's discuss the absolutely disgusting team in a positive way of saying a disgusting team, and I want to talk about Gellerpox specifically. Yeah. That's why I said disgusting team. I think that Gellerpox are that surprise appearance for many players who think they are dead or that the time is gone. And I still think that they can do a lot of nasty stuff, especially if we're not on the new kill zone. And I think that they might cause some trouble for the teams at the very top. Maybe not the Pathfinders, because they can out-activate them and potentially wither down the Hulks earlier on. But other than that, I think that they're solid sparring partners for Felgor or Commandos. And yeah, I still think they're a good team. What would you say?
I completely agree. I think they are often overlooked because Felgor was a better version, in my opinion, because you just have more threats. But the Hulks are just so good, and so I think they are a problem for a lot of teams in the meta, and this is a team that I think Mandrakes are going to hate seeing across the board.
Oh yeah,
absolutely going to hate seeing it, because they don't know how to deal with them.
I'm going to fight first. Okay, I have 27 wounds. Go on.
It's like, good luck. I roll my 5s up, and we'll see what happens, right? So yeah, I think they're A tier. I hate to say it, but I do think they're better than your Hearthkin salvagers. And that's probably a grudge taken there, but but I do think they are. They have loads of activations. They have loads of wounds. They have super conceal on the mission guys that they want to do. I've just every time I see them play, I just think to myself, like, this is a team that can just stat check you, and if they roll a lot of 5-ups early in the game, it hurts so much. Conversely, if they roll not very many 5-ups early in the game, then it doesn't matter, because that's a weird thing about the Feel No Pains. It's a disproportionate stacking thing, right? Like if you save them early on, then you have more opportunity to save more later. So yeah, I would put them in A tier, and I think they probably sit towards the top.
Yeah, I would agree that they should sit somewhere in the A tier, probably towards the top. I don't know if they're better than Hearthkin, and the reason why I say that is I think it will be very much format dependent, and I think this will continue to be an ongoing theme. When we look at those tier lists, we always have to consider whether we're looking at a tier list for a mixed format, BD, ITD, open. Because if you look at a tournament where Bet Decima is going to be like 33 or 50% of the boards, all of a sudden I would start. I would reconsider the choice of Gellerpox like at least twice. Like, and if you look at that, I would definitely tell you, like, don't you dare to put them above Hearthkin, and even if you want to try to put them opposite the board. The teams like Commandos, for instance, or Felgor, where normally I'd say, this is or Mandrakes, right? Like, this is a good idea. Like, depending on the map, it might not be a good idea. I remember I took them once to Warhammer World during the days where they played on those heavily cluttered
with no
boards.
doors. Oh no.
Yeah, like I ended up going with 4 hulks in a conga line because this was the only pathway through the board to get to my opponent, and this felt horrible. So I'd say yes, they are very strong. Yes, I see them in A tier, probably towards the top, but at the same time, it will depend on where. I mean, it will depend on the exact format for the tournament, the boards that you play, and this will ultimately determine the final placement of this team.
I completely agree. And like Manchester Dan is a perfect example of someone who has been stung multiple times by the terrain layout. So he went to a fest where in the briefing pack it said that doors are going to be used. So he took Gellerpox, and then he arrived on the day and got told that they were not going to be used. So you can imagine when you looked at those boards, and I think he spent 3 turning points getting his hulks out of his deployment zone against a high-tech circle player. And it was just like, it was just one of those things where you go, I don't know what you do in that scenario, because you can't go through the door. You have to try and like shimmy round, pay traverse, and all that sort of stuff. It's just gross. So they are very, I think there is some maps like Beta Decima and stuff where they're not going to do well on. So they're not like agnostic of terrain. Whereas I think you're probably right, the Hearthkin are agnostic of terrain. So if you're both playing like open board on TPT maps, I think Gellerpox are probably going to be the better pick over Hearthkin.
Yeah.
If you're into the dark, I'd probably say the same. But if you're on a different layout, you think maybe not? Well,
yeah, I think maybe not. I guess if you try to face those teams into each other, I know it's not the best way to do it, but then countering the drawn to the hum TP1 may mean that Gellerpox cannot get to the objective they want to get to. But like in a more general sense, I still think it will be map dependent, even an ITD. Like
I guess it depends if you can start your mutants and stuff next to doors. Because if you have to move to get to the door, then the mutants probably can't do the thing they need to do. So yeah.
Well, on some maps you can drawn to the ham to move them like 3 inches forward, and then you can move 4 towards the door that is like further away, and those doors are usually like within 8 inches of your drop zone, so you can still move like 7 forward with drawn to the hand plus 4 inches movement and open the door. But that obviously telegraphs your play massively. So there's that. But yeah, like let's keep them in A for now. That would be my suggestion, and see what happens next. Maybe we want to reshuffle that later. But they're definitely a very strong team. And interestingly, I think they even have some play on certain boards that are more scarce, and like that you don't really have as much terrain there because you still have you have super conceal, and you have 11 activations, and your big hulks have 27 wounds on average, and versus many teams it's okay even if they get below half of that, and they will still be a massive threat to the enemy. So there's that. Who shall we talk about next? Maybe another one of, I think, your favorites, Kasrkin?
Oh yeah, I really like to say there is some personal bias. Like, I love the lore of Kasrkin. I love Imperial teams, as everyone knows, right? There is one thing I will say about Kasrkin that I do think is massively in their favor, which is if you're a good player, you can just make stuff happen the way you want it to happen. So like, it's very difficult to blame the dice with Kasrkin. Like, it's very, very rare where something doesn't go right because of dice. And even with like initiative plays and your ability to use the siege initiative tactical ploy and the ability to do the strategic phase dash, they have a lot of strengths. The difficulty that they have is probably the teams that you see in S and A tier right now. I think are going to be very mean for them, that they don't enjoy being out activated. Horde teams can be a struggle for them, and they're still kind of fragile. So they're a weird team where you have total player agency, I think, when you're playing with Kasrkin, but they fundamentally they're a 10 model team, and they lack really double kill potential outside of a few grenades.
I largely agree with that. So ultimately what we're looking at is a 10-man mid-range team who's good in killing elites. And it's not dice dependent, so in many aspects they look like Novitiates. However, they do not have as many tricks as Novitiates when it comes to double killing or multiple kills potential, and in certain aspects they do like prove to lack on board. But yeah, I largely agree. I think Novitiates are stronger than them. So for that reason, if you want to put them above them, we'll have a very long argument.
No, I actually agree. So I think Novitiates and Kasrkin do very similar things. I think if I was playing on open board, I'd rather have Kasrkin. And if I was playing on ITD, I'd rather have Novitiates. Which is like it's a small thing. It's just where they are. I actually think they're very balanced when they play against each other. Depending upon which train you're in, like that depends upon which team wins generically.
Oh, we're putting them in B+. Okay.
But I think they sit there, and the reason is you can't deal with the larger activation teams very easily. You just don't have, like, the grenade launcher, like is a double kill maybe, but it's probably just chip damage on the frag profile. And then, like, what do you do? Like, you're now into a 4K charge, but realistically, you're 3 attacks, and you're hoping your opponent doesn't roll a parry. Like, it's just So they don't have double kill. They're very, very good at killing single models. So if it's a 10 versus 10 or a 10 versus 11, I think that this team does well because you can just guarantee these kills. As soon as you start facing more than that, or you face something like Felgor, which I know people think is a good matchup for them because they can guarantee the crits. I'm just not convinced because
I don't think so.
Because you invest so much in killing one, elite points and all that sort of stuff, and it's still there, right? And now you go, well, what do I do?
Very often it will end up with you putting a goat on frenzy, and then that very same goat killing another one of your operatives.
Yeah. Exactly
So
that.
it's
Exactly that.
it's
You just trade a melter for a goat every time, or a plasma gun for a goat, and then you trade a grenade launcher for a goat, and then you go, well, I've now run out of threats. What have you got left? And they go, I've still got 7 guys that are all threats to you. And you go, all right, I guess I'll just die then.
so yeah,
So
yeah, I agree with that. And my advice would be that if you really want to play Kasrkin or something similar, take those models, cut their legs in half, and use halfkin rules. And because ultimately, if you think about it, like both are 10-man mid-range teams, but if you think how many tricks halfkin bring to the board in comparison to Kasrkin, it's like it's it's almost like a different league, like of what you can do with a team that's so similar in a way. So there's that. But like jokes aside, I think that they do struggle into teams that out activate them. They will struggle into teams that are at the very top of the meta for various reasons. And yeah, I think that B plus, yeah, I would say it's a bit generous for them. But again, like I know I'm biased and Novitiates, so maybe they should sit where they sit.
yeah, you're lucky the Novitiate gets to sit above them because on open board, I think it's a Kasrkin win. All right, so let's go to what should we talk about next? We've got so many different options here. We haven't, I guess, talked about
What about the cultists?
the cultists.
Chaos cults.
Yeah, okay, Chaos cults. They got hit quite hard in the nerfs, I think.
Yeah. So I was about to ask you a question. Do you think that with most recent nerfs, we will see them like drop down massively in uptake and win percentage? Do you think it was too much? Do you think it was enough? What would you say about that?
So my difficulty in answering this question, right, is I do have a bit of a skew because I obviously went to World Champs where all the best players in the world were playing cultists, and you could just see the pure potential that the team had, and them getting hit was definitely needed, and I think the latest round of nerfs is probably fine. I think the reason why they look so bad right now was the lack of nerfs to the teams that I thought would have been hit harder. So I actually think now they're probably in a good place, and I think a lot of people will think that they're, they'll cast them out as potentially, way worse than they are. But I think they sit in the middle of the meta, and I think the reason why they do that is because the other melee teams at the moment are just flat stronger. Like in the past, before these nerfs, Colts would eat Felgor and probably eat Gellerpox. But now Colts have to play this really difficult game of using their icon, which becomes so critical to this team's success, to make those fights work for them. And those other melee teams aren't reliant on that as such. So I think personally Colts sit in B tier. I think they're still fundamentally a 14 body team now, with melee potential, with damage reduction, and with a good late game opportunity, and the healing as well is still very impactful. But they were nowhere near where they were because they were S tier for a very long time. Where they were B tier, I'm happy to be debated, but I would suggest that they're above Strike Force and probably above Warp Coven, but someone could tell me that Zangors eat them now, and I'd probably believe it. And so maybe these two can switch around. I'm not too sure.
I think we can keep them at the very top of B, even if only for the sole reason that they still have 14 bodies, and that cannot be underestimated, like that, the importance of that. I think generally speaking, the team is in a good spot after all those changes, more or less. Yes, I can hear that some people might say, oh yeah, this is not enough, or this is too much, because obviously there will be both groups that they will like shout equally loud. But in a way, I prefer them to sit where they are right now, because previously, if we take like a look at how it looked like a few months back or half a year ago, when you faced cultists, then right off the bat, you had to engage in advanced gymnastics not to lose the game. Just because they will do one of the mutation shenanigans, and there you go, you're done. And there was nowhere to hide from those massive horrors. And I'd say it's better for the game in general to see them, even if they go bash a bit too hard, which I don't think is the case. I think they're in the hands of a good player. They can still win events. They are still very strong. But even if across the board, in the hands of, let's say, average player or not so experienced player, they will not perform as well as we'd like them to, I think it's for the better of the whole game, because it wasn't fun to just see mirror matches of cultists or cults on every other top table.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think, I agree with all what you said, and I still think they're capable of winning stuff. It's just that the teams that are outperforming them are just better versions of themselves. And in my opinion, those teams should probably be toned down. And that's why they sit where they sit. And they would have a better win rate, and they would be better represented if the other melee-focused players were playing them rather than the Felgor or Gellerpox, which is where I think people will sit.
I believe that Hulks should be bigger. I mean, from a thematic standpoint, my preference is that the Gellerpox Hulk should be the biggest pile of meat that will fight in the game.
Just want to see
at least until the Patriarch comes out.
Oh god, Patriarch! That's gonna be something. That's another tier list. We'll cover that another time. That's gonna be a spicy one. All right, let's move on to. That brings us in this episode. Hopefully, you found something new or useful while listening. If you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated, and share this with your friends so they can benefit as well. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure to hit subscribe and select the bell icon so you get notifications as soon as the next episode drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. If you can't wait and you do want early access, you can join the Patreon, where you get exclusive access to all of our content ahead of time, as well as exclusive videos, access to the Discord, and tournament rewards. If you are an existing patron, let me take this moment once again to say a massive thank you for your support. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next time.